Why does it have to be a token that is traded 24/7, 365? And I think it's distracting for fans that like might be demoralized. It's what happening with like a lot of NFT collections. Like what happens when the price goes down 90%? Does that mean that you suck as an artist? I think it's really your dopamine system goes on hyperdrive once you start seeing your token pump and you're like, fuck yeah. You're like, I'm worth like more than Jason. And like my token is, you wake up and your token's up 10x.
You got to get on there so we can battle, man.
No, listen, it's
For
like,
sure.
wow. Like, of course it feels great if your token's up 10x or up only. Like, great. Yeah. But markets do what the markets do. And like, there are cycles and bubbles pop. And so what happens if your share price is down 90%?
I think this will probably be one of our most controversial episodes we've ever done in the last like 2-3 years. Basically, Friend.Tech has taken over the narrative more than anything probably more than anything I've seen since NFTs in 2021, and then before that, DeFi in 2020 with DeFi Summer. And so, just wanted to bring on Ansem. Ansem is not one of the founders, but was kind of the first person I saw posting on Twitter about this back, I think, like 3 weeks ago. But one of the first days of August, like pre-launch, posting about this. And I think right now you're the top, at least out of my friends, you're like number 5 on the so-called leaderboard. So, Ansem, welcome to the show. Pumped to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Should be fun.
Yeah. All right, so let's maybe start from the top. Just like what is Friend.Tech in your mind, and maybe actually even before that, like when did you first hear? When did Friend.Tech and like Racer and stuff get on your radar?
Well, I saw it on my timeline probably like a month or so ago. Didn't really know what it was. I just like saw the tagline. I was like, you'll be able to make a token associated with your profile, like Friend.Tech by your friends. I thought it was interesting. But I've seen like the social tokens narrative kind of get more popular over the past year or so, and it's been kind of building up. But there had never been any platform directly other than BitClout where you like had a token associated with your online likeness. So I'd say probably a month ago, and then it just started kind of building. And I was already looking at Base and like the applications there because Coinbase, I think, is going to do a really good job with their L2 just because of how much retail exposure they already have through their centralized exchange. And this year in crypto, I've been kind of looking for which consumer applications I think are going to be that next level outside of just the DeFi primitives that are really going to get onboard more people other than just the degens that are already on chain trading everything. So I was kind of looking in both of these areas, and Friend.Tech just kind of popped off pretty quickly a couple weeks ago.
Nice, man. Did you meet the founders? Did you meet who are the founders? Shrimp and Racer and stuff. Did you meet and Pancake? Did you meet these guys or no?
Nah, I've met Pancakes in person a few times, like at some conferences in Europe, in Lisbon, I think. That's the homie. I know him pretty well. Racer, I just know from online. He's just a shit poster. I never met him or Shrimp, but yeah, Pancakes is cool. That's the homie.
So let's just walk through, like, for anyone that is kind of like waking up or under a rock, like Friend.Tech. It's like BitClout. People may not even know what that is. So basically, you get an invite code, and these invite codes were like kind of coming out, and a few people are throwing them out there on Twitter. So you're lucky enough, you get on the platform, and the first thing, it's only mobile, and the first thing that it asks you to is to connect your Twitter account, right? To claim your profile, right? To verify your identity. And I stopped there. I said, there's like no fucking way that I'm going to connect my Twitter to this thing. It just looks sketch. I'm not going to do it. Like there's just a lot of downside. So I stopped there. I got a code like a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't gotten on the platform. But you guys are so bold as to have gone through that flow. And so what happens, like once you open up this Pandora's box, magic kingdom of Friend.Tech, like what do you see?
Magic Kingdom. First thing
because okay, like I'm just gonna say, like, well, I'll stop. I'll resist the urge. Why don't we just be more objective in this first part of the episode?
All right. So the first thing you see is like an option to buy your own share. So essentially, each person that gets an account, like they obviously link it with their Twitter, which verifies their actual person. And then the first like screen is buy your share. So you buy your own share. It's free. And then your
Wait, so you
token
buy,
is
but it's
essentially,
free. How does that
yeah,
work?
the first share is free. That's for you to buy.
Okay, so
You
they
buy
give
your own
you
share.
one
You get a share for a dollar. You get a share for like
Yeah,
a dollar.
you get your
like,
own
or
share
$0.
for it's like free.
This, by the
And
way, is
then
deployed on Base. So like you need to port over some money into Base to do that.
yeah, you
right?
deposit. I think they recommended like 0.001 or 0.05 ETH or whatever it
Somewhere.
was, just so you have like for gas fees and stuff. But yeah, so you get to buy your own token, and then once you buy your token, then it's available for trading, and then everybody else on the app can trade, buy, and sell your token.
Can you buy more than one share then and there?
No, not directly.
So you can only buy one. You can't like load up a bag of your own shares before
No, you
everyone
can only
else.
buy one. No,
Okay, you can only buy one. Before we go any further, talk to us about the bridging experience because we've had 2 episodes on Base, and apparently bridging is super smooth, super easy. So can you just talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, the app was pretty straightforward. I bridged to Base already from ETH. And when I downloaded the app, they just gave you an address to deposit ETH from like to your Base address. But then after that, after like the first few days of onboarding, they also enabled people to just send money from their ETH address on mainnet. Previously, it was Base. You had to have Base ETH. But they enabled that functionality that did all the bridging and everything for you.
So if you have some ETH in an exchange or in your own wallet, like native wallet in Ethereum L1 or some other L2, it has to be L1 and you bridge over.
Right.
And it takes
Santi,
a few minutes.
I would like. I've actually been recommending folks download this. Not even because they want to play with Friend.Tech and like bet on Ansem or you or something like that, but just to see the onboarding experience. It's the best UX onboarding experience of anything that I've seen so far. It operates as an app. So you basically get this, you go to friendtech.com, you then save it to your home screen. So it's basically operating as an app, but it allows you to skip the app store. It bridges for you. So you connect your MetaMask and then you actually do you deposit the ETH and then it does the bridging for you. You deposit one time and do one signature and then you never have to sign again. So every transaction after that is like, I don't know, pre-signed or whatever. And you're basically minimizing like good UX is like is basically just minimizing the amount of times you have to click around somewhere, and that allows you to do that.
When I hear that,
fast,
the first thing that I hear is the first thing in my brain is like security. Are they compromising on security? Like, because they're generating a private key for you, right? While you're doing all this in the back end, or what is happening? Because if you're depositing into, you're not like I guess you're connecting your MetaMask, but it's not. Your Friend.Tech account has a private key attached to it, and that's not the one that you're sending your ETH from.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I just want to be clear because this is something that I want to come back to later on in the episode of how easy, smooth UX historically in crypto at some point has meant compromising security. But we'll save that for later. So, okay. So you bridge your ETH over to this thing. You buy one share and it costs you $1. Everyone, just $1. So you need to pay $1 to get initiated in this thing. As soon as you do that, the rest of the world can buy your shares. How many shares are available? What does this curve look like? Like for the pricing curve for your shares? Like how does that work?
There's an equation for the bonding curve. I don't know it off the top of my head, but as more people buy, the price obviously increases. It's kind of like a parabolic type of curve. I think that I'm around like 150 holders, I want to say, and I think my pricing is like 1.8 ETH. But you can buy multiple shares instead of just buying one share. But yeah, this is the curve.
So one share of Ansem. So if you're another user and you want to buy one of your shares because hey, I like you, I follow you on Twitter, I think you're great, you have good takes, I'm going to go and support you for whatever reason, and it's going to cost me 1.8 ETH per share. Is that right?
Yeah.
So roughly close to $3,000.
So Santi, you can see it right here. So you can see it right here. So if no one owns Ansem, it costs $0. As soon as someone owns one share, it's 0.0000625. Then let's say there are like 10 holders and they all hold one share of Ansem, it goes up to 0.006.
Yeah. So basically the first guy that buys is like 1 cent. The 10th guy to buy is like is over like $11.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a linear relationship. And then the 20th guy to buy is like, I want to guess like
35
25
bucks.
bucks or something. No, even more. Yeah, $45, and so on and so forth. And so, what is the motivation to buy your share? And do you buy one share? Do you buy 10? Like, what have you guys been doing?
What I've been doing, I just think there's like different strategies for it. In my opinion, I think that Friend.Tech can be not just crypto content creators. So if you have founders in other industries, or you have like musicians or artists or athletes that may not be as popular, maybe you want to buy a share, so hold one of their shares, and then as they grow and like as they get more popular, then more people are more invested in their platform, whatever they're doing. And their share price may go up. Or you want access to the information that they have. So say somebody's an expert in some field of technology or in their industry, and they want to share information through this chat, then you buy their shares, you have access to that basically until you decide to sell. And I think we've kind of seen in social media, a lot of these creators are trusted by their followings.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see with like Elon posting or switching over X to doing ad revenue and sharing with creators and kind of pushing the subscriber
Yeah, people
lane.
have like paid newsletters and sort of
Right.
side. So historically, it's been sort of disassociated, right? You have like you grow your social media presence, be it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, um, and then you monetize in some other manner, right? You have your Substack or you have your own website, and people, but like the argument that I've heard, or historically how it's worked, is people build a social profile that is free, and
Mm-hmm.
then as soon as people like want to get more of that, it's almost like a gateway drug, if you will, to their paid content where they monetize. Um, Now, is there a distinction between the number of shares that you have and the level of access that you get, or is everyone on the same? Like, as soon as you have one or 100, it doesn't matter. You get
There's no
access to like the.
distinction.
Okay, no
Well,
distinction.
not currently. There's no distinction.
So Santi, the other
Um,
thing that we did, that Ansem didn't talk about yet is like you get access to inside of the group is almost like a Telegram chat. So like let's say I own Ansem's, like one of Ansem's, I bought Ansem. No matter what price I got it at, no matter how many shares I own, I get access to like his one-to-one chat basically. Um, and like I think
And
who was
how
it? I think
active are
Loud.
these chats, by the way?
It varies.
Some
So
are
there's some people that are super active and they're posting like nonstop, and some people aren't as active. And I think it's kind of seen in people's share price. So the people who are more active and responding to people nonstop and back and forth, their share price is typically higher because people feel like they
Mhm.
have that closer connection and closer access to them. For me, that's one of the big things because I have a good amount of followers on Twitter, and I literally can't reply to my DMs anymore because I just get so many of them. But if I have a chat like this, and I have a smaller amount of them that I can reply to, so it's easier for me
Mhm.
to like filter through some information. But yeah, it depends on the person,
Yeah.
honestly.
Someone might look at this mechanism and say, "Oh, wait a minute. If you're critical of this, well, how is that any different from Twitter, right? Which is allows now to have a subscription, right? Like some big
Mm-hmm.
accounts, like Spectator Index and a few others that I have, all like now have like this tweets that are like protected now, and if you want to see them, you have to subscribe. So
Yeah,
it's kind of now it's not one to one perfect analogy, but it's just a
it's yeah,
different way.
it's similar to that. I would say that the main difference is that you also benefit in that person growing their popularity. So say you
Hmm.
subscribe to somebody when they have like 5K, and then they go to 100K followers. Previously, you don't get any access to that like
Sure.
upside or anything. I would say that's the main difference. But yeah.
How active?
So,
I guess like when you guys. I mean, I appreciate it's been just under a month or just a month. Mostly crypto natives. Starting to see some non-crypto native people. Like there was an NFL player that joined recently. Presumably, other celebrities are going to join soon.
yeah, it's been mostly crypto native guys. I think it was yesterday. Grayson Allen from the Bucks, the NBA player, joined,
Hmm.
and then FaZe Banks from FaZe Clan joined. It's like one of the big FaZe Clan guys, and he was like posting about it pretty actively on Instagram. And then in his chat, he's like talking about, yeah, I'm like super excited about this. Talk to the team, talk to the founders. So for me, I think it's likely that you'll see other people outside of just crypto start to join, especially since the onboarding is pretty simple. And there's not really a ton of downside for people who already have these platforms in other industries on other social media platforms. So I think you'll start to see, and it'll be interesting, like, I guess, how Racer is like on the leaderboard compared to people like FaZe Banks or Grayson Allen. Because for me, it's like Racer should be the most important person. He's the founder of the app, obviously. But it's like going to be interesting to see which, I guess, fans and which groups of people do well.
I know you're hyper skeptical on this, and like
no,
by
I'm
the way,
asking objective questions. Like I'm not being skeptical. I'm just asking like questions because I haven't gone through it.
I guess let me just share my framework for it for a second. It's actually an idea that I talked about with this guy Chris King back in like 2018, which is are you ever like with friends and you're like, yo, I was following this Instagram account and it had like 2,000 followers and like now it's blown up. Now it's got like 200,000. Be like, or you find a song on Spotify or probably on SoundCloud when it's got like 10,000 listens, and then like 3 years later it blows up, and then 5 years later they're touring. You're like, damn, like I was listening to that artist before anyone knew about them. I feel like a lot of people probably just had this experience with Fred again. Is probably like the most recent, but there's no way to bet on that. There's no way to be like, yo, Santi and I first talked in 2017. I knew that dude was smart. He started posting on Twitter. I wish I could like bet on this dude. There's no way to do that. And I think right now it's like full blown speculative mania, absolutely insane. Probably a lot of people get hurt in some way or another, but like long term, it's cool to have a platform that allows you to bet both long and short on like, I don't know, just people in general. Now there's a bunch of like societal downsides of that we can talk about. But I think that's like my mental framework for this one.
No, absolutely. Look, I mean, I think the idea of it is powerful. I'm not like being skeptical of that. The thing that, I mean, of course, we can keep it anecdotal of like your experience, but where I've, in practice, I've like Steam it. You guys remember that? Like you get, it's like Reddit, but you get upvoted and you make money out of it. And I think there's a whole body of like studies out there that show that as soon as it's like behavioral economics, right? And it's like as soon as you introduce a price to things, people are less willing to do certain things. Like for instance, like charity. A lot of people like would walk your dog or would do certain things without even the notion of thinking that they're going to be compensated for it. And as soon as you introduce an element of compensation, it really distorts and changes incentives in a way that like the foregone conclusion is like just don't introduce tangible value to that, because a lot of it's just goodwill. And I think about like my experience in Twitter, like I'm not posting like even when I had 50 followers to when I have like over 100,000 followers, I don't do it directly to get paid. And like now, for instance, DC investor, now apparently, in order to like get some revenue sharing from Twitter, you have to have over 10 million impressions. There's like a criteria of which I'm close to, but I'm not there. DC investor is, and he was tweeting about that experience of like now being paid for essentially his tweets. And I don't know, I'm really curious to get both of your perspective on the idea of like monetizing this thing that you would otherwise and have been doing historically for free.
The way I've been thinking about it is I think it's actually incentivizes people to put out more free content, in my opinion, because now that people have
is it free though? It's
right,
not,
so
right? Because you're getting paid.
So I'm saying outside of your like platform on whatever it is on Friend.Tech, the content that you're putting out on Twitter or on whatever other platforms that people are reading for free. I think that since you have that income stream, even if those people aren't contributing directly to your like shares on Friend.Tech, you also are going to put out more information to all these other people that are reading it for free, because they know that once you're putting out more content, that also is going to incentivize people. Like as your followers go up and like your content goes up, you're putting out more good stuff. That's probably going to like have that positive feedback loop on Friend.Tech as well. So that's the way I think about it. It's like even the smaller accounts, like there are a lot of smaller accounts on Twitter with like 3-4K followers, and their share price is equal to those with like 100K, 200K. And that's because like they have a lot of good content, or they're putting on Twitter, and then it gets boosted on Friend.Tech. So it's good, kind of high signal there to see like which smaller accounts are going to blow up or could do well later. And also just like finding good analysts early, I think it's interesting in that regard.
So when you post, Jason, I want to go to you as well. When you post on Twitter, post on Friend.Tech as well?
No, it
No,
doesn't.
right? Got
No.
it. But people looking at what you're doing on Twitter. So like for you, can you post outside of this Telegram group to the public that may not own your shares, or is everything that is happening, all the discourse is happening inside these groups, paid wall, essentially?
Happens inside the groups.
Okay, so there's nothing that is public like Twitter. It's basically combination of it's basically Telegram but with paid groups, only paid groups, I guess.
In the app,
Yeah,
you mean?
like if you,
Yeah, in the app.
Yeah.
Got it. Do you think that at some point they will open it up so that it's a mix of like Twitter with like Twitter DMs, like Twitter with paid DMs, essentially?
I think they might incorporate like a public sort of feed. The explore page is kind of hard to filter through now because it's literally just like everything. There's a list of what your friends are doing, and then there's a list of everything that's happening on the app, and it's just like an explore, basically of people that are buying and selling. I think it's very bare bones at the moment for sure, and they definitely could incorporate some kind of public feed. That would be interesting. But I think the core functionality of the app probably won't change.
Does it recognize when you say friends? Is it your friends on Twitter that are now registered as well on Friend.Tech, or are your friends only the people that you're buying shares of?
Yeah, your friends are like your holders or people that you have shares in.
Got it. So I would assume it's like basically no activity if you don't buy shares in anyone else.
I mean, I don't know if you can see my screen, Santi, but there's like you can see like all your friends on Twitter. So like here, I'll show you this. There'll be like it's loading.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It recognizes
your
friends on Twitter, right?
So like, I don't know if you can see that like leaderboard type thing, or like this is like an activity feed. Like if you ever go on like Venmo and you can see who's like paying people and stuff, it looks very similar to that. Or I can be like, oh, like Mika Honkasalo just bought one share of Matt Fybeck, who's a Blockworks research analyst, or like, Marlo just sold one share of John Charb. So it's kind of, you can see that whole activity feed, Poor John.
And these are people. Well, that was my question, right? Because it's people that you follow on Twitter automatically. This activity is populated by that, right? It recognizes your followers from Twitter to then suggest or tell you what other people are doing to incentivize you to go out and buy, go long or short some of these shares.
Yeah. Ansem, zooming out for a sec, because I know you've probably spent more time thinking about this than like anyone out there outside of the founders and Paradigm folks who led the seed round in them. What is your kind of, we'll talk about the bear case in a second, but like, what is the bull case for this? Like, what is your like 0 to 1 moment? Like, if all of this works, like what's your like mental model for how you're thinking about this long term?
The way I've been thinking about it is there are a ton of industries that have these influencers and have these creators that have a ton of impacts in whatever their specific industry is and are experts in their field. But people historically have had no way of betting on those people doing well or participating in the upside that they have like in those communities. And I think fandom is really, really, really a big thing nowadays. If you look at like music artists or like rappers or athletes, that's huge. And people will pay a ton of money, whether it's just for like tickets to a concert or like for signing to events. So the way I think about it is like you take somebody like Taylor Swift, who has resold concert tickets for upwards of 10K. If she were to have a Friend.Tech group, like you would assume that there's going to be people willing to pay whatever premium to get that direct access to her. And then she can give access to her shareholders via like meetups or private meetups or like signings or anything like that. And I think that can happen across multiple different industries in a way that's never really been done before, while also allowing people to benefit in the upside from the athletes or creators continue to blow up. So like, say you have a college athlete who's like number one in the nation in high school, whatever, and they get selected to go to, I don't know, like U of Alabama, and you can buy shares like as they are, whatever, getting picked. and then they go to the league, obviously keep doing well, whatever, continue throughout their career. Like that ability to bet on an individual, like early in their career, and then them blowing up has never been possible before. I think it's obviously very difficult to achieve. Like, I'm not saying that's the base case, but if they are able to do that, it will be crossing a chasm, not just in crypto, but across like multiple different industries. And I think that's a really cool scenario that could play out.
So you see it as some combination of like fan groups, like subscription fan groups, like let's call it like a Patreon or OnlyFans, combined with like a longer term like FanDuel, DraftKings, like betting on someone's like not on the game that they're playing, but like on their career almost.
Right. Like, I know there's something called, I'm not a huge fantasy football guy, but like the Dynasty, I think it's called, where you can draft people, but over like multiple years. It's not just the one fantasy football season. So that already exists. But yeah, similar to that, but for everything, for like all industries.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I'm in Disclosures. I bought a token to Disclosure or whatever. So I'm in and I like Disclosure's music. So I'm in his thing and he's on the app. And I'll just read something. I think it's fine to read from his like. So he's got 38 holders, and this is what he sent to them. He says, this is the strategy the entire music industry is going to adopt soon, at least for independent artists like me. Subscription-based models for fan clubs basically is where all this goes. I thought that's an interesting take.
The guy, I think it's Blau.
Blau,
he's on there, and he was like saying he's gonna drop like links to pre-release the stuff before it comes out for people. So I think there's definitely interesting things you can do with music. But, yeah.
Maybe flip it. What's your like bear case on this?
The bear case is like anything that's tradable is going to have, if it goes up too fast, it's going to come down. So there's always going to be people that are taking profit if they're up 10x, 20x, whatever, on their share price, especially if they have more than one. So I've looked at my like holders, and there's a good chunk of them that only have one share. And I think those are the people who are less likely to sell because they obviously are not really trying to trade it. But some people that have like multiple shares, I think as your share price goes up, there's always going to be people taking profit. And when there's people taking profit because of how the curve is set up, there's always going to be somebody who bought high and then price goes down. So in the case where you have somebody famous and say they do something publicly that's not great, and then their share price goes down, people can lose money on that. So anything where speculation is involved, I think you have to be wary of that, and that could hurt the platform in that way. But I think that's just like default by anything that people buy and sell.
Yeah, I think it's the best thing about Friend.Tech is also going to be the worst thing, which is the speculative nature of things in crypto is amazing for customer acquisition costs. Like there's no marketing plan Friend.Tech ever could have run that would have been able to onboard. There's now 100,000 people on Friend.Tech in like 2 week time, and there's no marketing plan that would have accomplished that. But that's also the like toughest thing to manage for anyone who's probably launched a token. They've seen this, right? That's the toughest thing to manage for long-term growth. So yeah. Santi, how you feeling about Friend.Tech right now?
Well, I'm not there because I'm not going to link my Twitter. Like, I'm not going to say
what's the concern about linking the Twitter? Just curious.
Historically, I think it opens up a vector where it could get compromised, right? A lot of that, whenever you connect something, like there have been issues with other apps that you connect to. So I'm very sensitive to that. But I'm noodling on it. I may go on there. I don't know.
Santi, zooming out from Friend.Tech, what is your thought around just social tokens in general? Because it does feel like this kind of social token thesis is coming back a little bit. And do you remember our episode with Icebergy?
Yeah, Icebergy, and then Alex, like this guy Alex had a social token way back. Look, income sharing agreements. That's like the very more basic construct is income sharing agreements, right? People to go to school, they have ISAs and all this stuff, like Lambda School and all this, whereby you commit to, people can buy basically some sort of share in your future earnings potential. And then it's kind of a little bit like that, but in a more real-time speculative way that makes me uneasy. Like, what happens if I don't know, Ansem, like, can you buy more shares of your own token? Like, can you go out and buy like, yeah. So like, are you earning trading fees based on like however? So these are the things that I don't know. Like, I'm not like, I've been in crypto long enough to just have seen various iterations of this type of model that have not worked. BitClout, um, Steam it, right? Um, that it's like algorithmic stablecoins. It's like fascinating to think about, but have a whole set of issues where they haven't worked before, but we keep trying. I don't disagree with like any of the things that you've said, by the way, Ansem, which is like the idea of like there ought to be a better way for creators to connect with their fans and be remunerated, and maybe the fans, early fans and adopters also participate in that upside. Um, like it would be cool. Oh, by the way, no one's really like asking for it, right? Jason, to your point, like, would it be nice to like get credit for being an early like discovering disclosure early? Great. Yeah, absolutely. Um, issue an NFT of that you went to their concert in like some sort of random bar in Brooklyn. Like, why does it have to be a token that is traded 24/7, 365? And it just, I think it's distracting. Like for fans that like might be demoralized. It's like it's what happening with like a lot of NFT collections. Like what happens when the price goes down 90%? Like, does that mean that you suck as an artist? And what does that do to the churn of the fan base? Like, I don't know. It's just like I'm not very bullish on this sector of crypto. Like I think social is interesting, but like social plus like this speculative rage is just makes me uneasy. Um so look, it's going to keep happening. These experiments are going to go on, but I'm not this is an area where I'm not really bullish on, to be honest. And I'm happy to
Well,
elaborate on any of that, but I'm just not uh I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. I think it's really your dopamine system goes on hyperdrive once you start seeing your token pump and you're like, fuck yeah. You're like, I'm worth like more than Jason. And like my token is you wake up and your token's up
Santi,
10x.
you
You're
got to
like,
get on there so we can battle, man.
no, listen,
yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
wow, like of course it feels great if your token's up 10x or up only. Like, great, yeah. But markets do what the markets do, and like there are cycles and bubbles pop. And so what happens if your share price is down 90%? Like,
Santi, let me throw this out to you. Who's you love Avicii, right?
who doesn't? Best DJ of all time. That's
Right.
not even a question. Like,
Not even a question.
it's not
Exactly.
even a question.
Exactly. Not even a question. You
I
get
was seeing
elated
his early
whenever I
concerts.
mention
Yes,
Avicii.
I went to one of his earliest concerts, and he was playing in New York, and I was there.
Yeah. So if Avicii dropped like let's say 10,000 NFTs, those are like back in I don't know 2008 or something like that. Like those are a completely speculative nature, and those would probably operate in the same way that something like a Friend.Tech share would operate, which is as Avicii's career grows, those grow as well, and they're 24/7, 365, and people can buy them and sell them and flip them. And I think anything that has a dollar value associated with ends up becoming a speculative market. Like, I mean, I know you buy some watches, like that is talk about a speculative market. Like the watch market is insane, but that doesn't mean like there shouldn't be a watch market. Do you know what
Oh
I'm
no,
saying?
look, I'm not anti-market or anti-financialization. These things will happen. We can't stop them. The world just wants to like if you can financialize something, it will happen. Like you have these collector collector markets are huge across wine, any sort of wine, cars, all type of luxury goods, like, mementos, like, like Jordan jerseys and Kobe, like StockX, like these things are massive. People want to collect, like we collect stuff. And so that inherently has a price attached to it. Um, so I don't know I think the distinction is nuanced though between getting an NFT having attended a concert, I think of it more as of like a something that has a little bit more meat on the bone, not just like a share certificate, if you will. It's like a collection, right? It's like you can go buy. It's like saying, "Hey, I was in the Lakers final where Kobe played," and like you have that ticket, or you have the ball or the net or something. Is that valuable? Of course. There's someone out there who's going to pay a ton of money on that, and you can auction it off in Sotheby's or whatever. But yeah, like, do you want to have a Kobe like shares constantly traded? Like, I don't know. It's just different. Do you see what I'm
And
saying?
some
Like, I think it's
no,
nuanced.
I do.
There is a distinction, I think. I'm sorry, but it's not the same, I think.
Ansem, what's your kind of framework around thinking about these as maybe like NFTs 2.0, or is that a bad mental model?
I do like the social tokens as NFTs 2.0. I kind of tweeted it the other day. But I think that honestly, the end state or like best case scenario for these, I think it's going to be a combination of NFTs with the shares or like shareholder groups. That's where I think this is going to trend towards. I think it just makes a ton of sense to have an NFT collection associated with your like whatever your VIP shareholder group. And then you can also do some really cool things where like as time passes, if they've been one of your shareholders for a really long time, you can reward those people who've been holding whatever your NFT and have it like upgrade with different tiers and stuff like that. I think that's a really cool lane that this could go down. But one of the reasons I think I said NFTs 2.0 is because the royalties and everything are built into the contract. So like one of the things that people have said, one of the reasons for why creators were not as excited about NFTs before is because royalties basically got killed. But in this setup, creators get a default, a percentage of all the trading fees. So it's kind of like a royalties by default implementation. That's why I kind of said it's like NFTs 2.0. But I do think there should be a combination that could be really cool. Since Friend.Tech is very bare bones, I think you can build a lot of cool protocols and things on top of it. And we've kind of already started to see devs build out different like UIs and UX and like things on top, like to trade the shares, fractionalized shares. I think that'll continue to happen, but it can be like the base layer for other things on top. And with the speculation thing, I just think like it is weird that it's people. You kind of seen on the timeline, yeah, some people are happy that their shares are up, but there are also people that are unhappy that their shares are not up. Like some people who have a ton of followers, like, well, why isn't my share as high as this person? You kind of seen some people like, yeah, I don't want to be on the app just because I don't want to deal with that like personal situation.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to Empire in just a minute, but before we do that, I want to let you know that we have Permissionless coming up. Permissionless is the big conference that Blockworks and Bankless put on together. It is the biggest, the best DeFi conference in crypto. This year, it is in Austin, Texas, September 11th through 13th. If you've been in crypto for a while, you know that bear market conferences are the best kind of conferences. We have a phenomenal lineup of speakers. A lot of the guests that you hear on Empire are both going to be speaking there. You will have the opportunity to meet them there. And a lot of the topics that we cover on Empire, ZK Tech, rollups, account abstraction, MEV, app chain thesis, a lot of that kind of stuff, that will all be discussed at Permissionless this year. So because you are a listener of Empire, you get a special discount. That's right. Santi and I negotiated with our marketing team. You get 30% off if you go to blockworks.com/permissionless. Empire 30 is going to get you 30% off your ticket. Today, when I'm recording this, that's about $300 off your ticket. So type in Empire 30 when buying your permissionless ticket. You get about $300 off. Click the link at the bottom of this episode. It's in the show notes. Do it quickly because prices go up all the time. And if you are going to permissionless, hit me up. Let me know. Shoot me a DM on Twitter. I would love to meet up with you there.
So a couple things that I'd like to get your thoughts on that point, which is one, the price manipulation of these shares, especially tied to my second question, which is bots. Right? There's a lot of bots out there on Twitter. They will presumably come on this platform and try to snipe and do front run and do all these kind of things. How do you mitigate that or not? Is there some sort of baked in mechanism to prevent these sort of things, or um yeah, like what happens if, I don't know, said person, like, that there's, I wonder if like there's like a way to short these shares, but like if that like, say you're a soccer player and you're not going to renew your contract, or something bad's going to happen, that like you're going
Yeah.
to go from like Manchester United to like Miami or something, and like that's positive or negative, like these people might like sell or buy or sell their shares, not maybe through their direct account, but like through associates. And so how do you kind of think about all of that?
Yeah, it definitely gets very complex with the price manipulation when it's an individual token, because obviously I know things about me that nobody else is gonna know.
Exactly.
So I think like if you implement something, I don't know, maybe on how individuals trade their shares or individuals close to you trade your shares, that's could be possible. I really am not sure. As far as the like anti-botting mechanisms, they're definitely not in place now, but I think something cool that could be done right now, basically, bots are looking for high follower accounts. As soon as they make their accounts on Friend.Tech, they're buying their shares early
Right.
and then selling as whatever, as the manual
Mhm.
people come in. I think one way to counteract that could be to have the early buyers have like the shares locked for a certain amount of time. So say you buy the first
Mhm.
50 and it's like, well, price is under 100, you can't sell until like a month later or something. And in that scenario, then bots are probably less likely to game it because they're not going to want to hold for that long instead of just getting the free money on flipping the bonding curve. Yeah. But
Yeah.
the price manipulation thing is definitely going to be a
Yeah, it'll be,
yeah.
I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking of that, like you could if you're the owner, you'd have to stake your amount. And
Mhm.
if you wanna sell, it's like a 10b5-1 plan or whatever, where you have to say you're gonna click a button, it's like an unbonding period, right? And
Right. Right.
you initiate the sell or the intent to sell. Everyone sees that, and then you could sell out of it after 6 days or certain amount of time period. Um, no, it's not perfect. Maybe there are better mechanisms, but something like that probably mm, feels a little bit fair,
Mhm.
you know?
Santi, I think all early markets are manipulated, by the way. Like
Yeah,
all,
yeah. Well,
you know,
no, like absolutely. Like the
like
nice
you
thing about,
traded DeFi, and that you were one of the first like big DeFi folks trading in the DeFi like that. That was a rigged market until the market gets more liquid.
I
Not
wouldn't
maybe
say
not rigged,
I
but
wouldn't say
not.
rigged. I would say, I mean, it's liquid. It's more volatile. Yes. No, we're not like trading actively on it. Like DeFi farming, yeah. If you're the first block or so, yeah, of course, like the yield is much higher. You're taking a whole lot more risk, but yeah, look, I mean, I think there is a distinction between a rigged market and an early illiquid market in price discovery. Two different things.
That's fair. Let me just tell you maybe my thought on this, Santi, is like we're moving to a world where anyone can become a creator, and anyone can become a creator, and anyone can not just become a creator but like a true star online. And today we have a world where you can long or short the earnings and valuation and product releases and success of companies. It makes sense that you would be able to do that with people as well. Is this the right way to do this? Maybe, probably not. I don't know. Most startups end up dying. This one mathematically probably and probabilistically probably dies too. But like it makes sense that like as
Eh,
more and more people become creators, you should have a way to bet on these creators, you know?
Yeah, I mean, okay, like I equally thought about this idea where you could bet on the specific individuals within a company. So say that you like, think about a company like Google, so many different divisions, but hey, you bet on Google Brain and not bet on other parts of Google like AdWords or whatever. And you could specifically maybe combine LinkedIn and then bet on specific departments within a company. Hey, that'll be kind of interesting, right? So the question, yeah, like I get your point. How is that any different? If you're able to do that, if you're betting on, if a company is a collection of individuals that are creating some sort of output, then this is no different than betting on a company. It's just it feels kind of very weird that it's at the individual level,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
people like it's no different. It's like, but now it's one step. It's not one step. It's like you're going to the root, right? So it's like if a company has one employee, then well, you're basically betting on one person, right? Or if you're betting on a company because of a CEO, then how's that any different than Friend.Tech? So like,
So
I'm
for
taking the other side of my
yeah.
argument because I'm aware of that. But there's a weird like the brain just works in different
So
mechanisms,
for
which is
companies, it's not different. Like I
no man.
like you investing in Blockworks was a bet on Mike and me, right?
Of
Like you didn't have to buy
course.
my share. You bought like that's a
Yeah.
bet on us, right? But I think you're seeing a lot of like abnormal companies get created these days. I think like the
Sure.
definition of a company was like, you know, maybe
Yeah.
you go out and raise some money, but like now it might be like you have a music label and then you're like Mr. Beast and you launch some like Feastables, chocolates, and like it doesn't
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
normal, I would say. So anyways.
All I'm conceding is all I'm saying. I'm conceding to your point. Yes, the future will look very weird as we think about it today. It always does. I'm just I'm struggling to get. All I'm saying is I'm struggling to see it.
Yeah, yeah. Ansem, what do you think of
And maybe
Go
younger people like maybe I'm just an old dog and like that's fine.
Ansem, what do you think of the very dystopian view that social tokens create an incentive to cause harm to folks? So, like, let's say you if this was like a real market, you could go long, but you could also go short. And let's say I'm trading at like one ETH right now. If you put on a big short on like Yano tokens, you would like like you extend that out further like far enough and you're incentivized to kill me, but you're also incentivized to like put out a bad rumor about me to like help our competitor like to do something like that. What do you think about that kind of dystopian world?
I mean, I think it's real, but I think it also already exists. Like, I think people have, I don't think there's official social tokens, but I do think there's projects in crypto and also companies that trade publicly that have really big public figureheads. And other people in those industries are aware that if bad things happen to that person, then bad things will happen to this company and then public perception will change. And it's the same thing in crypto. I think that there's some discourse that is skewed in crypto and it's intentionally skewed towards like people are talking about projects that are competitors to them and they know that if they talk about those projects then like they may not be seen as in a as good of a light and that will like make them look better. I think that's a thing that already exists. Obviously it's a lot more direct with individual tokens, but yeah,
I mean, I
I
would
think
say
that's
like
already a thing.
prediction markets are probably more dangerous than this, right?
Yeah, and
Because
those exist now,
if you
right?
put a prediction market on particular individual or becoming president or whatnot, then you could put a bounty on their head
Yeah.
if you're shorting it. Where versus these tokens, like it's going to get weird, but like you're saying that if a person dies and their token is worth less, maybe it's actually it could be the inverse, or it could be
Yeah.
way like it could be much more
Yeah,
because
that's
then
true.
you get memorialized and like you become this sort of legend and whatnot. Like think about a lot of artists that have like Amy Winehouse or a bunch of celebrities that have unfortunately passed away and that like they're collect like Kobe sneakers or whatever, like it just
Yeah.
blew up because he's no longer with us, unfortunately. So I'm just saying, I think like that's the. By the way, this is what like I think in Europe they don't allow you to short shares, which is like it creates a sort of perverse incentive to like go out and do harm. Some people argue that. I think like there's always like people that want to do harm, but like it's a bit of a stretch. I think. I'm less concerned about that, to be honest. Like that they would
Hmm.
promote like nefarious or, well, not nefarious, but promote like you know, evil. No, I'm less concerned about that.
Hmm. What do you guys think? So Santi, you're an investor in Blur and
Uh-huh.
Ansem, I'm curious. So one thing we haven't talked about is this airdrop or like a potential airdrop or something and like the points and that whole system. Can you just explain how that works? And maybe I'm curious how you think about this in comparison to something like Blur.
Yeah, they said they're distributing 100 million points over the next 6 months. That's the plan. And they said that it will be rewarded in different ways depending on the usage that they see in the app because they don't want it to be gamed, they don't want it to be cybled. So they said they reserve the right to change the metrics that they're looking at for distributing points to people. But yeah, I talked about it a little bit the other day. Blur, I think, launched when their token launched, it was around 3.5 billion fully diluted valuation. So some people have been trying to like project out, okay, what if Friend.Tech launches at 1 billion? How much are they going to airdrop? how much of that's going to be distributed and what price will the token be, depending on whatever FDB that they launch at. That's a ways out, but I think it's interesting in that it's probably going to incentivize activity within the application, especially because people already saw how much the Blur airdrop paid out to people. So they kind of have like something to compare to, especially since that was also Paradigm. But yeah, I got a lot of points the first week, and a lot of people were like, "Yo, dude, now I need to get on the app." Like you can literally see where people released their points that Friday, and activity skyrocketed as soon as everybody was posting how many points
Hmm.
that they got. So it's definitely a good incentive to get people, but we'll see how they avoid it being gamed.
Yeah, I think there's actually a decent comparison with Blur. Not only did Paradigm lead, I think Paradigm led Blur too.
So
But
Mhm.
they
yeah,
both had but they both had anonymous founders, and I think the Blur founders are a little less anonymous now. But the Friend.Tech
Well,
founders are.
the blur was definitely not anonymous. You knew who it was.
Oh, okay,
Just the rest of the world didn't for a while.
okay.
But
Ansem, why do
blue,
you think the Friend.Tech founders are anonymous? What is the like? Does that concern you at all?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would say they're kind of like pseudo anonymous because, like, yeah, Race is anonymous, but there's a lot of people in CT that know him pretty well. So it's not even like he really was a full anon.
Hmm.
And then also there's Pancakes, which everybody knows, and people who have been to conferences have seen him, met him, talked to him. Like I can FaceTime him like right now if I wanted to and talk to him. So there's like some people that are on the team that are they're front facing, and I think that helps with the anon concerns. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a like fully anon. I think there's people who know them.
Yeah. What do you think about the BitClout comparison? Like, how do you think of Friend.Tech being different?
My interpretation with BitClout, I think the UX was extremely clunky, and Friend.Tech is not the greatest. But I remember with BitClout, you would deposit like Bitcoin, I think, to Bitcoin addresses, and that's how it was traded. And then also with BitClout, it was like VCs got shares of everything like at very like huge discounts immediately when stuff started trading. Whereas with Friend.Tech, when you click buy, your share is literally at zero for everybody. And you have the issues with bots, but it's not the same as somebody else literally having being up 100x on all of your buys immediately. I think that was the big difference. It feels a lot more crypto native from the founder's perspective and then also from the community perspective to me, rather than BitClout did. And people, I think there was a lot of people who liked the idea behind BitClout, but just didn't like the execution. Um, and also, I think it gives opportunity here because there are a ton of people who are like, well, BitClout didn't work, so this isn't going to work. So you have a ton of people who are on the negative side, and it's kind of like an opportunity there.
Yeah, it feels like the main difference in my mind is one was auto opt-in, or one was like it auto added you basically. Like I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
like BitCloud's basically growth hack is like Santi was auto added to the platform as opposed
right.
to now if Santi doesn't want to join the platform, he doesn't have to join the platform, right? And you can also withdraw. You couldn't withdraw off of BitCloud. You had to do like some
Yeah,
OTC deal, and now
yeah.
you can. So those feel like the two big differences to me.
um, well, I was just thinking as you heard, so there's been a lot of SIM swaps of these prominent accounts. Um, Now, of course, if you haven't connected the account, like if people get a control of your account and you don't have a Friend.Tech profile, they're going to go out, create one, and monetize as quickly as possible, and then sell all the shares. Right? It
Yep.
just creates a bigger incentive for these things to happen.
That's
Um, have there been people that have like sold like gained prominence or price went up a lot? They bought some and then they sold them all very quickly, effectively rugging all their supporters.
There was one. I forget who it was. It wasn't. It might
It's
have
like
been
an NFT guy,
Hisaka.
right? He sold
Ben. So
10
Ben, yeah.
shares.
So yeah, Ben.eth had like 30 something shares of his, like by far the largest holder, and he was top five for a while. I just don't know how much of them he sold. But yeah, there's some scenarios where it's like people see that they're by far the biggest holder, and with how the bonding curve is set up, their price, obviously their entry is way better than everybody else if they bought them super early. So it's like, why do you have that many shares if your intent is not to dump them pretty hard? And it like because of how much trading fees the bigger accounts get, there's really no I wouldn't say like there's less incentive to buy a ton of your shares and be like and dump them on people than there is to have a good chat and be active and do it in that way. I think that makes more sense. So it's kind of iffy if you buy a ton of your shares.
So if I buy like go out and buy 10 of your shares, and then 6 months time, I decide to punch out and sell. Does that mean you're not going to talk to me ever again?
No, man, we'll be cool.
Will
We'll
you
be cool
punch me
still.
if you see me in real life?
As long as you
How
hold
does
one. As long as you hold on to one.
okay? See, this is
That is kind of funny though. I will say because
how do
I'll be like
you?
scrolling on here and I'm like, oh, dude, this guy sold my share. What the hell did I
That's
do
what
to
I'm
this guy?
saying.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like,
why
like,
did he just
funny.
tell me?
look. I mean, like, we've all gone through this process, folks, where like certain people block you, particularly ex girlfriends or whatnot. Okay,
Yeah.
but
I think one of our
like
employees just sold me. Damn, that's brutal.
that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you think about all these things, right? Where people make financial decisions, and you may not know the full context of that, and people have parameters. Again, if you're up 10x, like you want to manage risk, you want to manage your portfolio, whatever. People have different reasons for why they sell. Um, when you're selling a share of a company and you're on the board, like, or you're close to the founder, then I think it's that step removed. It's still a sensitive conversation, but yeah, like how does this influence your social like life and part of that once you have like you're seeing the people close to you are selling your shares, buying and selling your shares?
Well, hopefully not too much. But I feel like it already kind of happens in some of these chats and just on Twitter. Like, I know for me, I have a ton of followers now, so I have people in my replies that are like angry all the time or like negative all the time. That just happens by default. But also when you're trading on Uniswap, if you've been trading like these micro caps or low caps the past few months, like there are certain times where you're trading something and your homie is dumping on you. Like it's just how it goes with some of these PvP markets. I mean, hopefully, I mean, it definitely is a lot different if it's your individual token, but that's also why some people have their alts on there and they're trading through those instead of their public profiles.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, people dump on their followers, and they've been caught, you know, and called out on, um, but yeah, I think it's different if they're
Yeah,
buying and selling your shares.
yeah,
So,
it's different.
yeah, see, like, your mom goes out and buys, like, 10 of your shares, and then, like, then one day she's, like, really mad at you, and then it's, like, rage quits and,
Dumps
like,
everything.
and then crashes the price. You're like, "What the hell just happened?" Um
Oh man.
These are things like I've thought about, like they're fascinating, like things to think about, like because it forces you to think, okay, how do we, if a company, how is it different from like an individual share or like income sharing agreements? Like if you're, I've always found them to be problematic in the sense that like who's the oracle, like who's reporting however much you make, and at some point, are you incentivized to make that incremental career leap or take on more risk or start a new venture if you're gonna know you're gonna have to be paying like 10% of everything that you're making? Like just is like very weird. And sometimes we play around, and I'm all for experimentation, especially around like, you know, in crypto historically it's been like in DeFi, for instance, like testing new financial primitives and constructs and mechanisms is fascinating from a game theoretical perspective, but and it might, people might be critical as they were listening to me say that because like wait a minute, how's that any different? But I think it is with social, and I don't think we sometimes should venture into these things,
Hmm.
um, because like sometimes like social interactions are difficult sometimes as is. Like when you're introducing another layer of financialization, I don't think it gets any better. But maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, nah, it's definitely true. There's some people who are adamantly like, I'm not making an account on the app because I don't want people buying and selling my shares. I think like as Yano says, kind of a difference between Friend.Tech and BitClout is you don't have to make an account if you don't want to. Like you're not automatically given one. If you don't want to opt into it, it's not something that you have to do.
I heard that there were some shops doing perps,
Yeah.
on the
Yep.
on individual shares.
It
Well, you
launched
can
today.
now, Santi, you can take your shares, and so I'm sure you know way more about this than I do, but I think you can manually take your shares off of Friend.Tech and trade it on something like, I think you can create like a pool on Uniswap and things like that. But Ansem, have you looked into this?
I haven't done it for mine, but yeah, I think the guy Fubar, he's like a dev on Twitter. He essentially made some wrapper that allows you to convert your Friend.Tech like shares into a ERC20 token, and then like have it be tradable. The issue with that is obviously you have to like, I think you have to seed the LP with whatever a certain amount for it to not be gamed really easily. I know somebody that did it and it got like botted super quickly and sold into. I haven't done it for mine, but yeah, somebody has built that out, and I'm sure other people will do similar stuff also.
Yeah. Ansem, how does this change how you, or actually anything else on Friend.Tech, either Ansem or Santi?
Well, I was going to ask you guys the fractionalization, right? As I
Mm.
was thinking about the scenario of like, so punks, for instance, have been fractionalized. There's
Yeah.
zombies and apes that were fractionalized because, of course, the price tag just got to a point where like and it allowed people to like buy a part of something and feel great, I guess, about it. Is Ansem, how do you think about like your shares are now $3,000? That's fairly expensive. That's higher than the floor of like a lot of NFT collections,
Yeah.
especially now. As this price continues to grow, because you're prominent, people like you, yada yada. Like your price goes up. Um, do you ever like? Are there plans, or is there an ability to fractionalize? I guess if you wrap it and then you like you could fractionalize, and people could buy a partial share of that, but they won't have access to your group if you don't own the full share.
Um. Well, the way I've kind of been thinking about it is I think I already have like a free Discord and like a free Telegram, and I post all my information there. So what I've been planning to do is just continue to put out free content for people, and then have some stuff that I share with the smaller group. Um, I'm not really sure about the fractionalizing piece of it. Obviously, if it gets ridiculous, I think it makes sense to do so. But I just want to optimize for putting out the most like good quality information for people. That's just what I've always done, so I'm pretty consistent with that. But yeah, I'm not sure what even to do with it yet because it happened so fast. I honestly didn't even expect it to be. I didn't expect it to be that high on the leaderboard. Um, so I've been asking like the group like what they want to see from it. Like some people I've met in person, like come to stuff that I'm at in New York. That's cool. But yeah, I really don't know. Don't know yet.
Got it.
Ansem, how's this changed how you think about the L2 trade? And like, just curious how you think about like base and arbitrum and optimism.
Yeah, I still like Optimism. I like Optimism a ton. I think they've done a really good job with their OP stack and having people on board through like their architecture, especially since Base doesn't have a token. Really, the only way to bet on the activity of that L2 continue to increase and do well is either through Coin, the stock, or through OP, the token. And I like the L2's trade against Ethereum. Um, I think that as EIP 4844 comes around, which is the next several months, and it gets even cheaper to transact on rollups, I think that the most popular rollups, their tokens are going to appreciate more so than Ethereum does. And if we're in a choppy market where Bitcoin and ETH aren't really going anywhere, trading in a range, I think that gives you a good trade where you can hedge like short Ethereum and hold whatever L2 token where you're seeing increased activity. So I think that's an interesting trade. But yeah, I like OP a lot. I think it's a strong play.
What about
Um,
fraud proofs?
Fraud proofs
You're
as
not worried
far
about
as
that? That they don't have them.
yeah,
Basically, like what the fuck? Like we somehow accept the fact that they can. It's actually surprising that they haven't like come out with fraud proofs, and we're so late into this game.
I think it's surprising from like it's surprising that it's not talked about as much in the crypto discourse. As you guys know, I'm like a huge Solana bull, and the Solana guys are like, "Yo, they don't have fraud proofs. Like L2s are super centralized. Like you can do everything better on
Well,
Solana." Which
optimism doesn't,
Option
but
does, yeah.
Arbitrum does.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying like just generally the thesis around L2s being more centralized and not as fully built out yet. I think that's valid. But I do think that you also have to factor in when you're taking the trade. It's like, okay, what trade else am I looking for? And I think that the access that Coinbase has to all of their retail customers is really strong. Like if you're looking purely from like a trade perspective, then yeah. And I have confidence that they will eventually get there with all their technical
Fair. Yeah,
infrastructure.
you're talking more of a trade, which I can see. Like, I think it's a good trade.
Mhm.
None of this financial or legal, but yeah, if you want, I mean, it's hugely bullish, and people should go listen to the base episodes with Jesse, because I think from an onboarding perspective, it's huge because you have access to what is it, 100 million
100
plus,
million, yeah.
102 million plus, total registered users, 10 million actives of Coinbase. Like if a fraction of that gets onboarded, and it's fairly easy to get onboarded with this flow, then yeah, it could be positive for sure.
Very curious to see if Coinbase ends up talking about Base in their next earnings call, or like how much they end up talking about
Oh,
Base. I don't know when their next earnings call is. Probably 2 months or something.
I read recently a JP Morgan report, which by the way, I think they've been doing a fair job of covering it over the last couple of years. They talk about Base, and they talk
Really?
about yeah. So like I would say like financial analysts don't properly understand, I think, the Base, but some actually at least understand that it is impactful for an onboarding perspective and like getting people to use these things more so than ever, right? Because they're the gateway into this whole world. Jason, I want to ask you a question because I appreciate you've been asking most of the questions, but like you tweeted earlier that you've seen terrible takes, and that this is why we're having this episode, because you felt that it sounded like you felt that a lot of people just had horrible takes about Friend.Tech, and that you wanted to clarify a bunch of stuff. I don't know if we've done a good job here, or if you were subtweeting at me, which I haven't been tweeting negatively or anything about this. I came in here telling you that I was going to take the opposite side because I'm just concerned I haven't onboarded. But what have you seen out there that made you tweet that you felt that was a terrible take or was not properly understood by folks about Friend.Tech?
I think it's less that there were terrible tweets, and it's more that coming out of ETHCC, if you remember all like the thread ors threading around that like it's all infrastructure being built and that we need consumer, and like this is the most popular consumer app we've had in crypto, and I don't know, a couple of years it feels like probably since OpenSea and NFTs in 2021. Um, and I just think that like what a product looks like in month one is never what it looks like in year one or in year two, and that things change a lot. And that like I think a lot of people that I've seen who maybe aren't like super crypto native. I think a lot of very, very, very crypto native people just kind of like jumped into Friend.Tech because they know that the one of the best ways to make money in crypto usually is like playing around with new things and like bridging over to the new L2 and like playing around with this weird DEX. And like that's I'm just like accustomed to doing that. But I think a lot of people maybe on the outskirts of crypto are very, very, very pessimistic, and they like to kind of complain a lot that like we don't have X, Y, and Z. But like now that we have some weird iteration of what some a consumer crypto app looks like, it's like I feel like the pitchforks came out. Whereas like I do think that, and I get it, right? Because BitClout and SBF and Mashinsky, and like we're coming off some like a couple of bad years, right? But like I just think that it's a good time to be optimistic and think about like what products could turn into instead of just bringing out the pitchforks right away. Like Santi, I think you've approached it from a very healthy perspective. Like, look, I'm not using it yet. Here's why. Let me get on a podcast and like talk about it and like really figure it out. And like, I don't think you're going to use it ever, and that's totally fine. What I don't like is like people who've never played with it don't ask any questions and just think it's like BitClout 2.0, because like that's not how the industry progresses. You need to build risky things to move an industry forward. That's my take.
By the way, that's a good take. By the way, you want to hear something interesting? So Nvidia is
Always.
up like 7% today, which is a third of ETH's market cap. like,
Bro, yeah.
like Nvidia's up 6%, and it's a third of Ethereum's market cap. Like, it's a reminder. Like, okay, people might argue that this is a terrible take and yada yada, but it is like surprising to me sometimes when like the crypto market is just very, very, very small in my mind.
Yeah.
And like I'm a very much an optimist. Um, and if this is what experimentation and onboarding looks like, then okay, like so be it, you know? The future always looks weird, and it feels weird now to me to be betting on people. But another part of my brain does not see it as any different than buying a share in a company, particularly if you're only buying that share because you love Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or the Google guys or Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. And I think investing in early stage, as I'm hearing me be critical of something that I'm not using, well, yeah, it's betting on people. It's just weird that you're seeing it 24/7, 365, and your friends sell your shares.
Yeah,
You know?
it is weird.
It's that edge that
Yeah, it is weird.
it's
It is weird.
it's weird,
But I
but
think that's where the
hey, so
markets are
be it.
going in general. Is like if you
Mm,
buy, so like buying a stock, buying a share of Nvidia, for example, buying buy a share in the stock market used to
Did you
represent two
just say
things. It used to,
Nvidia? I'm
And
sorry. What is Nvidia?
and I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know.
Nvidia. Like
Nvidia.
what is
Mm,
Nvidia? I'm like,
Nvidia. I don't know. By the way, you know
what's that
who had the
token?
trade of the year? You watched the Sohn conference. Druckenmiller gets on there. He goes, "I'm not recommending anything. I'm not sharing any of my
Yeah,
trades.
he said
The one
Nvidia.
thing I'm telling you that I am buying and loading up on is Nvidia."
Yeah.
yeah,
Beginning of the year.
yo,
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
monster,
So
bro.
thought experiment. What if Druckenmiller like creates a Twitter and then Friend.Tech? Like, yeah,
Bro, it makes a friend set. That'll be
that
fire.
that would make me actually register on the platform if I could get access to like him sharing his
Yeah.
insights.
I will say though, Santi, let me finish that last thought, which is the
Yeah.
stock
Go
market
ahead.
used to represent two things. It represented access to cash flows, right? Companies would give back big dividends. It used to be like 40, 30%, and then got lower. And it used to represent ownership or excuse me, voting rights, right? But if you look at a lot of the biggest companies in the S&P today, like when you buy a share of Meta, you don't get either of those things, right? Zuck controls with 10-1 the voting rights and they have no dividends. So the stock market has essentially become just this kind of speculative game. And that's totally fine, I think. But it doesn't represent what it used to represent, which is like this tangible thing that you were talking about when you go to a basketball game and you get the net or something. Like I think a lot of the markets are no longer tangible things. They're speculative
Oh
things that
wait, no.
represent like where consumer attention is going.
Yeah. Well, let me be clear. I
I
think you
agree.
get some very tangible benefit. It sounds like to get access to a direct line of communication to someone that otherwise wouldn't be responding to you or you wouldn't have access to. That's feels very tangible to me. Now, I'm not saying that whether and how much value that has, well, that's for the market to decide,
Mhm.
obviously. And that may not be, to your point, the only reason why. Like, it's hard to understand why these things are worth anything, or stocks for that matter. Like, is it because of cash flow, or because of momentum, or because of a wide variety of reasons? Well, it's really hard to parse out the different components, but because it sounds like there's a lot of people that their share price, their individual price is worth a lot, but they're not very active in their chat. And others are really active in their chat, but their shares might not be worth as much. So it's kind of hard, right? To make some sort of like one size fits all for why things are worth or shares are worth in Friend.Tech, but interesting nonetheless. So let me ask you a question. As we kind of sounds like we're nearing here the end of the episode, but I'm curious, who do you think is going to be the major one? Does a major celebrity like get onboarded in the next week or two? And if so, who is that?
I think we're gonna have a rapper on. Honestly, I feel like I feel like they're
That's not a major celebrity. No, I'm kidding.
no who I have no idea. I don't
No,
know.
I'm
I don't
kidding.
know.
I
But
actually don't know.
I think a rapper being on would be pretty cool. Anybody in music, I think that like they have that strong fan base that they see and know people will pay extra because they already sell concert tickets, they like sell signings, say stuff like that. So I think that makes sense as an industry that would pay for something like this, access to something like this. And you kind of already seen some like Disclosure, Blau.
Mhm.
So I think you've kind of already seen some examples, but yeah.
I think it's
Although
got to be
those have
someone
been independent
independent.
artists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's got to be
the
someone independent.
record
Mhm.
labels might have a different view and perspective on this, or
Right.
agents.
Yeah, they might want a cut of those fees.
It's someone weird though. It's someone weird. It's always someone weird. Like remember when Brady turned on laser eyes back in 2021? It's
Yeah,
like,
I was like, what? I was like, what is going on?
Well,
Yeah, I
well,
do
you know
Sam
what
remember
was
that
that.
like,
came? I tweeted at him, said you should turn on laser eyes and Photoshop the lasers, and he took my pick and turned it on.
What? That's crazy. That's deep lore, bro.
Yeah,
That's deep
yeah.
lore.
And he quietly took them off.
I'll go buy your shares just because of that story.
Yeah, see, I should
Okay,
have been on Friend.Tech and then did that. You know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If you're the founders, one of the founders, sounds like there's 5. What would be the first product feature upgrade that you would do?
definitely photos and videos. 100%. Like allow people to record videos where they're talking, answering questions, allow people to send photos, so they can like send charts and stuff like that. I don't know about files, maybe files for like music artists,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think like media is pretty big. And then after that, I would say right now the chat is fully one-sided, so people send messages and only the owner of the chat can see all of them. But if you're in the chat, you can only see the owner's messages, and the owner has to like manually quote tweet all everybody's replies if they want to include them in the rest of the conversation.
Mm.
So I think there should be a way to toggle the messages that you want other people to see, or like some easy way to make the owner quote tweet them
Hmm.
instead of having to manually copy paste. So I would say those are the 2 main things I would focus on adding first.
Yeah, I feel those feels like pretty key upgrades.
Yeah.
On the question of NFTs in general, how do you think Friend.Tech changes the game for monetization of fan base and attention, going down this route versus issuing your own NFT collection? Do you see them as m- like a derivative of or mutually exclusive? Are you more bullish on one versus the other?
I see them as complementary. I think that there are going to be creators that launch NFT collections associated with their chat rooms,
Mm.
and the time aspect of them. I think will be really cool. Like, say you have somebody who's holding your share for a month or 2 months or 3 months. You have an NFT evolve with how long they've been holding your share. I think that would be
That
really
feels
dope to
key.
see. Yeah.
Like long
Um,
term, to your point, Jason, hey, you not only discovered me, but you've held the bag through and
right.
through for the last 10 years. Not you just like sniped it and dumped it.
Exactly. But I do think that some NFT projects that are purely just profile pictures and haven't really delivered that much value back to their communities, I think those may fall away because there's a lot more. Right now, there's more strong teams, not just Friend.Tech, but also stronger teams that are iterating heavier on like the membership, royalties, that side of things, and how really to build stronger communities instead of just having the pure JPEG. So I do think those kind of continue to not do as well.
Fair.
Santi,
Cool.
man, you joining?
Yeah, join.
Um,
Join right now, man, so I can buy your shares.
I was, uh, I was before this episode. I was thinking of doing it, um, but I will resist the urge for now. Partially because there's a whole host of things you need to like. Doing it on mobile is difficult. Like I feel like I know you can do it on your browser, like desktop browser, like if you enable mobile stuff. So, anyways, am I more inclined to do it after this discussion? No, but it's been interesting discussion nonetheless. This is the honest
Sorry,
answer.
Ansem, nice work, man.
It's too distracting, man. I'll stay in my lane this time around, guys, and I'm going to be proven wrong and lose out on a bunch of money, quote unquote. But like, no, I'm not. No,
Ansem, I'm looking at the fees right now. You made 30 ETH from this thing already?
Yeah, I'm already at like 30, and Kobe's at like
That
50 or
is silly.
something crazy.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Kobe's at
saying.
80.
Like, yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. The incentives, I'm not anybody outside of crypto. The incentives are people who are actually celebrities, like big artists. If they see that, then they're gonna like obviously want to at least check it out. That's what my whole thought process. So
What are you gonna do with that? Run a
I don't
validator?
know.
Oh no,
Just
wait,
give it
you're
away. Yeah, run an ETH validator. I don't think
Run
so.
an ETH validator. We got 2 more ETH. Good to go.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Well, this has been great.
At
Ansem,
least
thanks, man. And
this Jason, that was a perfect layup for you to say. With that part of that money, you can go to Permissionless in a couple of weeks.
after
Oh,
our
yes,
big shills the last couple of weeks, Ansem, you coming to Permissionless, man?
I've been thinking about it. It's in Austin, right? It's in Texas, right?
It's in
Oh,
Austin.
man, you just made 30
Okay.
ETH. Like, what's up? Man?
It's
You're
not the
coming to
money, bro.
Permissionless. Stop it. Stop the crap.
Yeah,
See
I'm gonna try to
Permissionless.
not even sell you a ticket. I'm trying to sell you a sponsorship over here. You're using that. You got that sponsorship money now.
Yeah, I'll give it away to my shareholders, bro.
Nice.
All right, man.
Gentlemen,
Be
well,
well,
keep
gents.
having fun. Wait, what's your latest so we timestamp this? How many shares and what's your value today, Ansem, and yours, Yano?
Oh, I don't have it up. Wait, what am I at?
Ansem's
Of
at
course you have it up.
150.
He's pretending like he doesn't have it
Oh,
up.
I
He
got
has it
my
like
phone's in the
pulled
other
up.
room. My
He's
phone's in the
got
other
6
room.
screens right here. Yeah. No, he's at 150 holders and 1.75.
Let's go.
I will say something. The app is so miserably slow. This is the screen I'm on for just like
It's super slow.
oh there. See, I
Apes.
just
There it
pulled
goes.
up.
There it goes.
I'm at 41 holders, 0.15 ETH.
Wow, so you're like nothing
getting
compared
bodied.
to Ansem.
I've made 1 ETH though. Look at that. I made 1 ETH from this thing.
You're worth 1/30th of what this fine gentleman is. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, you go
No,
and talk.
1/11th, 1/11th, my man.
Hey, I'm about to
Okay,
buy his
fine.
shares
I'm
right now.
climbing.
1/11th. Right. Well, there's 2 ways to look at that. 1, you're absolutely worthless, or 2, there's a lot of room to grow, and you're up and up.
It's not
It's a
but
mispricing.
you
It's
know
a mispricing,
what?
bro.
I'm infinitely more valuable than you are. So
Well, with that, folks, I'm gonna tune out and go talk to my therapist. So thanks everyone
All
for
right.
listening.
Good
And,
pod, gents. See you guys next time.